It's with great pleasure that Karl, aka Matt, as he's known to his inner circle, Sammy and I, or Rick, we're pleased to introduce something that's been kind of a long time coming, and we've all been very thrilled to be able to have happen. We've got one of the greats in a genre that we all adore very much, and that's, of course, Loren Avedon. Loren, welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good to be here. Glad to talk to you and reach out to your fans and hopefully, bring some insight to some things perhaps that they don't know about. So glad to do it. Thank you.
I know a lot of our listeners are thrilled to be able to hear this, like you said, to get some insight and just hear you talk, about what's been a pretty long career. So, as we'd said off the air, Loren, we're going to just kind of rotate questions here. And the first one, I think, is one that I'm sure you've answered with most interviews, but it's important that for listeners that maybe aren't as familiar with your entire body of work or kind of the origin of how you got into martial arts and film, I guess we could start by that, meaning, I'd heard in a previous interview a great story about the Chinese Connection and a viewing you'd had on the big screen. So if you could let people know how you got into martial arts and I guess film in general.
Absolutely. I was very fortunate, first of all, to have a mother who was surrounded by Hollywood and had been exposed to, great talent, great people. I'm not saying that there isn't greatness in all things and in all different professions, but luckily enough, my mother was quite independent. I'm an only child from a single parent home. Oh. And at the time that I went to my first Bruce Lee movie, it was 1973. We were in Bath, England, at the Hot Air Balloon Festival. Yeah, right. Oh, pretty cool when you're 10.
Yeah, no doubt.
No doubt.
Right? And but what was going on is my mother's friend was Ava McKenzie, who happens to be Fred Astaire's daughter. And
wow,
her son Tyler was kind of like my older brother, sort of, when I was living in London. My mother moved us from Los Angeles to London after her mother passed away. She just couldn't stay, and so, too much information here, but that's why we were in England. So we were traveling around, and we went to the Hot Air Balloon Festival in Bath, which is, of course, in England, and named Bath because of the Roman baths that were created there. But there was, and Tyler, Ava's son, Fred Astaire's grandson, was very into, plays and movies, and he just said, hey, I'm going to go to this movie tonight, and, you can absolutely come with me, but it's rated X. And I'm 11 years old, Now, you got to remember that this is 1973, so, and it's also Europe. I have to say that, they're a little bit more relaxed about things. I had my first pint, in England when I was 11 years old. But the thing is so I go with him to the movie, and it happens to be the Chinese Connection with Bruce Lee as the star. And I walk up to the ticket window because he's not going to buy the ticket for me. That's just the kind of, the kind of relationship we had. He's like, you'll be fine. Just go, go to the window. And the lady's like, you're not 17. I'm like, in my worst British accent at 11 and the lowest pitch voice I could do, give me the ticket. And sat there through Chinese Connection, absolutely mouth wide open and just eyes sucking up every second of this amazing, charismatic presence. And this guy who just was so incredibly cool and humble but ripped and just could kick everybody's ass, didn't need anything except himself to take care of business. And it left such an impression on me after that. And I didn't know anything about martial arts. When I went back to America, of course, there was Kung Fu theater and all those kinds of things in the 70s, late at night. And so you'd see the poorly dubbed, Chinese cinema. But that was my first exposure. And I never forgot Bruce Lee. And then later that year, he passed away. And I couldn't get enough of him. I mean, when you're 11, you buy the magazines, you do the whole 9 yards. And he just had this tremendous impact on me because I could relate to him, even though, I've always been colorblind or race blind or whatever. It's just, this was an incredible man who just I was riveted and completely, idolized just the way he was. So after that, I just couldn't wait to learn and didn't have a chance until about 6 years later. But that was the start of the martial arts, quest. And it just happened to be, at a theater in Bath, England.
Wow.
So,
It's funny because we've got a lot of listeners actually in Bath.
Yeah, we
do. It's funny for them to know that that's where the seed was planted.
Absolutely. And, of course, there really wasn't very much martial that I knew of at 11 martial arts going on in London. If there was, it was, certainly nothing that I was exposed to. It wasn't back until I got back to the States.
I think a lot of people take for granted. I know Rick and I, we were talking to them. We tend to chit chat about films we've been watching, or we just kind of got on a tangent about the title ninja in films, and just talking about the octagon with Chuck Norris, how ninjas are referred to in almost this mysterious way, like it hadn't become part of action film vernacular. So I can't even imagine going back to 73 how mind-blowing it would be to see something that literally there was nothing else to compare it to cinematically or in any sense, and it must have really, obviously it took hold, and rightfully so.
Absolutely. It was amazing, and I still have the DVD box set, sitting right there, and it's amazing how, I still think of him, and I still look at him as the bar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. It always amazes me when I think of Bruce Lee and what an effect he had on cinema as this charismatic, almost this titan of cinema, really, and like everything that we love about, at least here on this show, and a lot of our listeners do, about the great action cinema of the 80s and 90s and whatnot, kind of all comes from those late 60s, early 70s Bruce Lee films.
It's true. And, the thing that was cool about what they did, and still, they didn't really have a script sometimes with these movies that they would make in Hong Kong, but Bruce always wanted to get some wisdom in, and there was always a message, some philosophy, some, what is it? The reluctant hero, there was bravado there. There was, that charisma there and that power there, but it's that restraining of it and the, not wanting to, and he just did that so well. And that was his life. His art and his life, and teaching Kung Fu in San Francisco, and, and being challenged by other masters in Hong Kong, because he was going to teach Guilos and so on. So, that's real stuff. Yeah. And he was colorblind too. Some of his great students when he got to Hollywood were, all the big stars. Yeah. So, and as you know, David Carradine replaced him on Kung Fu. Now, I think Kung Fu with David Carradine was the right choice, honestly, when you think of the character, but of course his martial arts was doo-doo compared to Bruce.
That's generous.
Yeah, that is generous.
I love David.
Yeah.
You know, I had the chance to rub elbows with him on many occasions, and actually when I was up in Toronto, you know, trained with some of the guys when he was doing Kung Fu: The Legend Returns. Was that the series?
I believe it was. Ironically, one of our sometime contributors and a good friend of our show, Chris, I think he worked on that show in some regard.
There you go. So I remember being up there in TO and, you know, freezing my butt off and outside, you know, doing Wing Chun with the guys, you know, blasting each other. You know, it was fun. So anyway, sorry to tangent off myself.
No, hey, but don't feel the need to censor yourself, Loren. Like I said, whatever you want to give, we're happy just to kind of keep it rolling, as they say, and get out of it. Don't ever feel like it's going too long, because, like I said, it's those little nuggets sometimes that people kind of walk away from. And wow, you know, like we didn't intend it to bring up carradine, but that brought something pretty cool for people to think about when you're mentioning this. So yeah, please don't feel the need to cut yourself off at all.
Great.
All right, Loren, we got some questions from some of our listeners. We kind of reached out to them, and one of them was from a couple of our listeners, Bjorner from Norway, and Awesome Fabian, as he is well known in our circles from the U.S. They wanted to know.
There's a shy chap, I remember.
Yeah.
Very modest.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of your first big breaks was for Corey Yuen and No Retreat, No Surrender 2 in Thailand. What was it? They want to know, what was it like as a young man, a Guilo, if you will, going onto a stage of that magnitude, starting in a film with people like Matthias Hughes, Cynthia Rothrock, Max Thayer. I mean, a lot must have been demanded of you in terms of acting and martial arts and all that stuff. And I think that was your first lead role, I believe.
You're absolutely right. That was the first one, and I was wet behind the ears, but, you know, young and eager. And the thing is all of those other pros, you know, once I'd been accepted, like working out with Hwang Jung Lee, you know who Hwang Jung Lee is, of course. And Corey Yuen didn't hire me. You know, it was Roy Horan. So Roy was in L.A. looking for, you know, someone to replace Kurt, because Kurt was on a soap opera, and Van Damme had called him and said, you know how they abused us on No Retreat, No Surrender. When we go to Thailand, they're going to kill us, you know. And seriously, he literally scared him, and this is the story that I heard from the producers, out of going back over. And I was like, you know, great, I have nothing to lose. I'm just ready to go, you know. Mm-hmm. So it all happened so quickly. Literally, the phone rang. I had at the karate studio at Juncheong Taekwondo, which actually they're having their 40th black belt reunion on May 4th. I won't be attending, but the thing is just happened to be there late at night, pick up the phone, and it's this producer from Hong Kong. And of course, you know, where do you find talent in? Well, first of all, you go to LA. Everything usually is cast out of LA, even back then, and then you go other places. Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily, I had studied acting for a year and a half, and I did it on the lark, basically. I'd done some stuff because my mom was a commercial producer and director, so she'd stuck me in front of the camera for, you know, May Company and Carnation Milk or whatever.
Yeah.
But and had done some stuff with the Ree Brothers and you know, Furious and Ninja Turf and stuff like that. So I got a little taste of being in front of the camera, and that you know, buzz that you get bitten by the bug, because literally when they say action, it's exhilarating, yeah, and you're doing it, and then you're immortalized forever doing it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Yuen Kwai, when I got there, put Matthias and I together. We had to, first of all, it was the middle of the night when I got there. I'd just gotten off the plane. He got up. Roy, you know, said something to Yuen Kwai in Corey Yuen in Cantonese, and we did like a couple quick punch kick thing to show him that I could do reactions, and kind of walked away. And then the next morning, we've got Matthias and I coming together in the parking lot. They're doing screen tests with us in Bangkok with the two of us and they'd already had all the sets built. They're just sitting there waiting to make this film. And so, you know, I was lucky that, basically I foot the bill. And when I showed up, there was Max Thayer there, who was a great mentor. There was, Cynthia, who'd been there for a while. And I had seen Cynthia when she was on West Coast Demo Team with Ernie Reyes Jr. and George Chung, when Ernie Reyes Jr. was 5 years old, beating the crap out of George Chung, doing demo stuff in tournaments, because that was my thing. I'd go to the Heel Cho tournament and, try to kick someone's butt and get a trophy. But the thing is over there, it was kind of rough going in the beginning for me because, 3 different languages. I didn't know what was going on, but I had some instincts and I had obviously the abilities that they needed. And thank God I'd had a good acting coach, but some of the material that you have to deliver, some of the lines that, Max and I would be rewriting stuff in the van, eventually, try to make it sound more natural and more like our character. Now, that's horrible for any writers out there to hear, but, they get the credit if it works later on, and so does the director, and then we're the ones stuck there forever, being looked at. And you're going to review King of the Kickboxers, and I want to say right now that a lot of the overacting I was forced to do. Right. But,
Sorry, Loren, no need to apologize, if I may, because one of the things we love about you is that with action films, the key is to never be boring. And the fact that you go for it in a fighting sense and just with your character and your acting is appealing because it's always entertaining to watch and it's fun to watch. And that's the thing. I think the thing we all want to take away from action films is having fun and being entertained, which you always do, if I may say. So no need to apologize for that, certainly.
Thank you. And that's exactly the goal. I mean, that's when I'm doing my thing, my, spirit or my, whatever it is saying they're all going to be watching me and I'm going to listen and react truthfully and I'm going to be likable. And it sounds egocentric, but that's the simple terms. Those are result terms. But when you're there in the moment, you want to engage with that other actor and with the Chinese. This is something that a lot of, new movies and modern movies, they don't really get is there is acting in the fighting and there are moments and that's what the Chinese emphasize. I mean, we get like 2 takes for the dialogue and then, 20 takes to get, an 8 to 20 sequence, gaff fight, thing done properly. And they were really, and they were getting upset with me, actually, the Chinese stunt guys, because I really wanted to try to do as much as I possibly could. So the camera would see it's me, so that the audience would know it was me and not a double. And believe me, a lot of those things I had to be doubled. It's just too dangerous, and some of it I did as much as I could, and they would do the other wide shots just like they do with any film with a double because, it's something that they can get. Like sliding down, from guard tower to guard tower or whatever. I mean, I did that, but, and the Chinese stunt guys were getting upset. They were like, Loren, you do all stunts. We know work. Take a rest. Yeah. But I wanted to push the envelope and I wanted to see if I could do it. And then so I basically told them, I said, I will do, whatever I think is too hard, you guys can do. But the thing is let the editor choose later which is the best take. And you guys do it and let me try 1 or 2 because I want to know that I can do it too. And so that's something that I looked at as an opportunity. And yeah, that was very demanding. It was crazy. There's so many. First of all, they took our passports, when we arrived. So, I can always go to the American embassy and, tell them all the presidents that I can remember and, they've got my fingerprints or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that doesn't bode well for, the type of conditions that, or the things that you're going to be exposed to or asked to do, or the situations you're going to be put in, And it was kind of hairy many, many times. And, but I ate it up. I mean, I just ate it up. It's like, I've never been a soldier, but with the martial arts and with that kind of discipline, you always want to know, can I do that and, do it well, and so on and so forth. And so it was a great opportunity. The first 2 weeks, I was totally frustrated because I'd have to ask them, what are we shooting? Well, what am I doing? Because they've got me all dolled up in whatever, outfit or costume, and we're here. And I'm like, I'm reading the script, and I know I know what's going on. I know the scenes that we're going to be shooting, but what part of the scene, because they wouldn't do, sometimes they'd start with the end of the scene, shooting the dialogue and whatever, and then go back to the, and this happens all the time. But, the typical filmmaking is you shoot a master, you come in, for coverage and so on and so forth, right? So it's pretty rudimentary. These guys, you never know you never knew. You just had to be ready for anything. And that's good because that kind of spontaneity or that kind of, it makes the film organic or more organic anyway. Right. So, it was an incredible learning experience for me. And when I got home, it was hard to come back down. It was when I got back to LA. I mean, I started training right away, back at the dojo. But man, it was a ride. It was incredible. It really was.
I gotta say personally, watching No Retreat, No Surrender 2, it's pretty awesome how confident you come across on screen, how you just kind of burst on the scene. I can remember in 1987, I was all of 14 years old. And I think I saw No Retreat, No Surrender by the time I was like maybe 15, 16. I saw it on video. And I remember thinking, man, who's this guy? Where'd this guy come from? Because it just kind of comes across. I mean, talk about an actor that just kind of burst across the screen, just kind of came out, and boom, here's this guy. And I'm like, wow, man, who's this guy? And so, I became a fan right then and there. So I got to say, a lot of that stuff you're talking about behind the scenes, it doesn't translate across the screen. Across the screen, I saw confidence, and it was really impressive.
And energy.
Thank you. And that is, I got to say, I was a cocky bastard. I probably still am. and that was the character. And every actor has a little bit of that character in them. Yeah. I mean, so that was me. Thank you for that compliment. And entertainment is what it's all about. Speaking to a guy who, produces films and so on and so forth. And, if you're a pro, you're always the hardest on yourself. So, there's the shoulda, woulda, couldas, but at the end of the day, I'm so fortunate to have had these experiences and been in those spots to be, able to do that. And it's just something that, I mean, thanks to YouTube, really.
Yeah.
There's more of a resurgence because these films from the golden age of, Hong Kong cinema in the United States have kind of gotten lost. And not all of them, but, some of the seasonal films, like No Retreat, No Surrender, the first one, No Retreat, No Surrender 2, and 3, King of the Kickboxers, and other martial arts films that seasonal did. So, it's thank God for the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I'm glad that affected you that way. Let me tell you, when I saw myself, I went to the Hollywood Cinema. I sat there in the audience, and I was just drenched in sweat and gripping the arm guard, the arm chair rests or whatever, through the whole film, and hoping that I didn't look like a total dork. So, and just drenched in sweat walking out. And I carried around that ticket stub from going and paying to see myself in my wallet for, I don't know, 20 years. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, sure. You want to go right in order, or
What's that?
you want to go right in order? Or?
As far as the questions, Matt, you can jump around and do whatever you want to do, buddy.
All right. I was going to say, yeah, I kind of feel like Jim Paxson standing around watching Jordan dribble circles around the defense right now. So, Loren, you've worked with a lot of veteran actors in your career. Obviously, Max Thayer in No Retreat, No Surrender 2, Joseph Campanella in 3, and then Don Stroud in King of the Kickboxers. Did you have any impressions of them before you started filming? And then what lessons did you sort of learn from them as the production went on?
Well, great question. Max Thayer was really, I didn't know who he was at all. He explained to me that he'd done, some of these movies in the Philippines where he'd been an action star and so on and so forth. But Mac Jarvis, he really was a great mentor, and we played off of each other so well. It was just such a blessing to have him. So I didn't know him from Adam when we first met, but we became fast friends, and he saw something in me, and he knew what he was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. and so when I go to LA, I always look him up and I go see him and I always give him props for being such a great mentor to me on that first, starring role. And, having Cynthia there, Cynthia was really cool. She was so nice, and everybody was wonderful to work with. And Matthias was terrific. The poor guy had to do all of his own stunts. Did you try to double a 6'6", German guy in the middle of Thailand? No can. So, props to him. Joseph Campanella, consummate professional. I'm trying to think of the actor that I worked with in Operation Golden Phoenix.
James Hong.
Yes. I mean, all these pros, they're so, it's just business, and it's just, there's no sort of air about them. But when the camera's on, they turn it on. And Dick Jekyll, Don Stroud was a raging alcoholic and a crazy man. When we shot that scene by the river there, he had a fifth of vodka down by his, feet. We were waiting all night long to shoot because we're shooting production sound, which means sound as we're, shooting the actual scene, not dubbing. And you've got these boats going down the river with V8 engines on them and propellers, 20 feet behind with no muffler all night long. So, when we did get a chance to do a shot or two and, you're dealing with pros, Don was just spot on, even though he was hammered. And, and then Dick Jekyll, bless his heart. I mean, he was having trouble walking.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see him moving too much. He's in the Jeep. He's sitting down. In the office. He walks across, and so on and so forth. Because I don't know if it was his knee or his hip or what, but he had done some stuff too. And I had so much respect for him. And the thing about these guys is we're there to do a job, and they basically were, they made me better. And it was just a blessing to be with them and to work with them. Now, I've had the other type of actors around as well. And what happens is the tone that those people set affects everyone in the show, mm-hmm. whether it be you as the actor or the crew or, the directors or the producers. And so, I'm lucky that I had these sort of counterparts and supporting cast that were already, big time experienced actors and big names. that were so humble and gracious and they just were pros. They wanted the film to look good. They wanted me to look good. They wanted to look good, and they were going to do whatever was asked of them. And they didn't make a fuss. And that was a big lesson for me, is just watching them do it, over and over, and just be, as soon as it's rolling, speed, mark, action, they're just on.
Nice.
And it makes you on because, you forget everything else that's going on. 30 seconds later or 20 seconds later, it's cut and, people are milling around or doing whatever's going on, but you're still, it's hard to describe it. It was a great blessing to have people like that to work with. And, so we could make the material work. Because as you said, it's entertainment. And some of these situations are just so far-fetched that, it's not believable. But it's a movie. Come on. So we made it work. And working with them was just amazing. And, Dick Jekyll, I think, is gone. Joseph, I don't recall if he's still with us or not. And Don Stroud, what happened to Don is he went back to L.A., and then I guess probably a year after that, he was trying to break up some kind of fight in Venice Beach and got his face slashed.
Oh.
And so that's why you didn't see a lot of him after that.
Yeah. Yeah, he lost an eye in that.
There you go. So, you never know, but it was just great to work with those guys, and I was lucky. That's all I can say.
Yeah, this wasn't really in the question, but I got to ask because you guys have one of the great finales in all of action cinema, in my opinion. But what was it like working with Billy Blanks?
You know what? At that time, he was 7-time world karate champion. He could pick the buttons off your shirt. He was so fast.
Wow.
For a heavyweight, like a Muhammad Ali, seriously. And he was so incredibly athletic. Mm-hmm. And he and Keith Cook and we would train together, whether it would be the hallway of the hotel or whenever we could get our training in, we would. And here I'm working with the 7-time world karate champion, he's so humble. Every night, all he wanted to do was, read the Bible and get back home to his wife. And he came up to me and he said, "Loren, this is your movie, and whatever we do, I want you to be happy. And I want it to be great." And that just set the tone because again, egos. Now working with Jerry Trimble in the beginning, I don't know if you know Jerry.
Yeah, I'm well aware of Jerry because he's kind of I'm in Kentucky and Jerry's from northern Kentucky area, so he was
pissed that I was the star and he wasn't. Pissed. So the first thing he did was hit me in the balls.
Oh man!
So basically after that, the Chinese guys let him have it because he's putting their jobs on the line. And we were on the docks of Hong Kong. I mean, that's really not a time to, fuck around with the Chinese. Because you can become chum very quickly after they end your part in the film. But the thing is that, he basically, but that, sort of that tension between us, it helped. Yeah. You make things work. And, I wasn't going to give in to that, sort of small-mindedness there because I had a lot of other stuff to do and worry about. And so, after he kicked me in the balls and, smacked me a few times, really, I wouldn't retaliate. But when the Chinese had their, to do their thing, they would let him have it.
Yeah.
And so, Billy Blanks, honestly, he was so terrific to work with. And he hits hard. I got to tell you, there's one scene or one move where he does sort of an axe kick over my back. And I don't know, his heel hit some lung point or something. And I was just absolutely like this, afterwards. And, he was really generous. And when we would do these combinations, and when we would, sometimes they overcrank the camera. I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah.
They'll shoot it at 22 or 19 frames a second when they did use an actual film and a camera to get the speed that they wanted. With us, a lot of the times they couldn't do that because we were already so fast that they couldn't overcrank. But see, if they have to also make the last shot match the shot that they're cutting into, and we would do things called double action, which means, of course, we're repeating the same action to continue that gaff from a different angle or whatever would make it work. But I don't know if you notice, or you will notice, that when he first comes in, the first part of that movie, the first scene he really shoots is where he does, I think, the fight with, is it Ken Goodman, who is this guy who's, been hired to be the star of this action movie, and they're going to kill him because it's a snuff film. Yeah, it's a karate snuff film. And he says, they are waiting for me. And you see the guns on this guy. I mean, he was just huge. But if you notice, the fight that we do at the end, he had lost almost 30 pounds because, he came over after pumping iron and being ready to rock. And then we were shooting 14 hours a day and, 98% humidity and 100-degree weather and, whatever food we could get and whatever, I mean, it wasn't optimal. And, but he was just amazing. And Billy is that guy in, the Tybo videos who, wants to make you better and wants to pump you up. And he can do it. He can still do it. And I mean, just working with that kind of athlete is unbelievable. But he was so humble, and he was a great guy to work with. I was never worried for a second that he wasn't going to, punch my face off.
Nice.
Because he could have.
Yeah.
And, so he was very generous and great man. He's a great man.
That's nice to hear because, inevitably, like you were saying with the egos, Loren, it's an industry where there's a lot of testosterone flowing. Everyone wants to be kind of the man, and to hear that someone we really dig here, I know I can speak for all three of us, to hear that he was a great guy, it adds that much more because now that we're grown men, and you can kind of read more about people's careers, it takes a little shimmer off the stars sometimes to hear that your cinematic heroes or your athletic heroes were shitheads. So to hear that Billy was a class act is great to hear.
Truly a class act. And boy, could that guy, I mean, when we were, quick story, we all went to Pat Pong. Now he's married. Pat Pong is where they have the strip clubs and there's a lot of liberty in Thailand, shall we say. And so we just went out, and he just went along to go along. And so we go in to see a show. Come on, we're guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we're there. Come on. So he goes, and literally we go in this place. I'm with two of the greatest martial artists in the world. And we go in, and maybe 2 minutes later, the show's over, and we're surrounded, seriously surrounded, I think it was 5 of us, by about 12 guys holding knives openly.
Oh, my God.
And they're like 800 baht. And we're like, for what? We just got here. The show's over. You got to pay. So we all just reached in our pockets and gave them the 800 baht.
Oh, wow.
And walked out. And, so this is a thing. And, we laughed about it later, but, Billy and Keith Cook and so on and so forth, you can't go somewhere, you know what I mean, and try to be the king of the hill.
Yeah.
Always going to get smushed. And you're right. It is kind of crappy to know that later on somebody's a prick or,
Yeah.
Like Mel Gibson is ruined forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's just it.
Things like that. So, yeah, no, Billy was awesome, and I have to say, most of my counterparts have always been really, really amazing athletes, and really cool people.
Good. One of our listeners, Gunnar from Iceland, actually wants to know. He kind of dug up something pretty obscure. He wanted to know anything you can pass along about a film you did directed by Conan Lee called Carjack, a.k.a. Rumble in L.A. It doesn't really seem to be available even in this day and age online.
Thank God. No, look, I love Conan. He is another, he was under contract to see into seasonal as well, but he never fulfilled his obligations. We met in Hong Kong. He was there to do a 3-picture deal or to do a film, one of 3, and I was there working with See Yuen. And he had worked with seasonal as well. We got along great. Brooklyn-born Chinese guy.
Yeah.
Amazing martial artist. In his day, he was the Jackie Chan. He was, working with Jackie and he was Jackie's double too, but tremendously charismatic guy. But Carjack or Rumble in LA, we were working in LA. Basically, it was an ultra low budget, kind of deal. And when I did the film, and I hope my union never hears the part of me doing it in LA, but whatever. The thing is like you said, the film can't be found, so there's no evidence. The thing is, basically what it turned out to be is there's a couple of clips of some fights that he and I did on YouTube they're pretty cool. And a couple of those gaffes were, we had Bolo there. Now, Bolo is, not a real martial artist, although he's more of a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But he knows camera. And he was, this is the thing about working in town. You got everybody there. Hey, you want to come out and play, or you want to sit at home and, read a book? Oh, I'd rather go to the set. Come on, so. But anyway, Conan had this idea for a film, and he was funding it or had something going on. So we shot the movie, and I remember seeing it under some distributor in Milan in 1996, and I saw the trailer for it, and basically it was Conan driving away in his Mercedes, Conan doing 2-finger push-ups, Conan, it was the Conan Lee I Love Me trailer.
The Conan Show.
The Conan Show. Without the Conan that we all know, that's a Chinese guy. In any case, but there were some snippets of that movie that are pretty cool. But it never made the grade to be released. So I guess it was, or it could have been in some markets, but it just, the content of the film was, there were some good parts and a lot of other parts, if you know what I mean. So
yeah.
I've never even seen a full copy of it. But it does exist, and I know he's tried to repackage it and do this and do that, but there's some cool little fight snippets on YouTube, and that's about it. So Carjack / Rumble in LA is and shall remain a great mystery.
Nice. You were credited as a fight choreographer on Tiger Claws 3. Did your years of performing fight choreography kind of prepare you for that role?
Absolutely. And, there really was a stunt coordinator and other fight choreographers and so on. And I've choreographed. And when you work together on any martial arts film, unless it's the Chinese, and I learned this too, is especially, if you're working with talent that you've never worked with, mm-hmm. You set them aside and you say, put together a sequence for me and let me see it, or, whatever it was. So luckily, there's a lot of great talent in Toronto. So, but also a lot of my great stuff never made it in the movie.
Oh, wow.
Because I think that when you see something powerful and then you cut to something that looks choreographed, Because again, you want to be explosive. You want to be unpredictable. You don't want to, that's one of the things that I'm critical about myself in No Retreat 2 is there are some shots where I'm blocking already, and it's because, I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. And, but in the sequence of all these movies, everybody contributes, to the choreography. I've choreographed stuff that, most things and never gotten credit. Because somebody has to get credit for the overall, and that's their job, and that's cool. They can have the credit. The thing about Tiger Claws was it was kind of cool because I got to be the baddie. Yeah. And a lot of people, kind of criticized me for that. Like, how could you do that? And I was like, I'm an actor, and this is a chance. Yeah, this is a chance to play a role. And that when you play a bad guy, you can't act bad. A bad guy just thinks he has the right to do what others just don't, have the guts or the, they feel entitled. They feel, you know what I mean? So that's how you get away with it. So it gives you so much freedom to play a character like that. And it was so much fun. It's, one of my first baddies, and and I played a few more baddies for Jalal. Mm-hmm. But, so the thing is that I enjoyed and have enjoyed, whether it's working, doing stunts on TV or whatever. It's a team effort. Somebody gets the credit ultimately, but, you got to make it work, and it's got to be good. So I just was lucky that I had that opportunity, and they gave me the credit for it. So,
Loren, another one I got to ask, just with Tiger Claws 3 is what was it like to work with Carter Wong? Because we're kind of fans of his here.
You know what? He was really cool.
Oh, nice.
And again, the face on that guy, it's just it's intense.
Oh yeah.
And he was very generous again, very generous. And we just had a lot of fun doing these things. Now, working, on the set in Toronto, first of all, I love Canada. The nicest people ever. It's just too effing cold most of the time for your schooling. Or, I would have spent more time there. And, but I loved working in Canada. And as a matter of fact, there should be a film coming out called Risk Factor one of these years that's been, many years in the making because they'd shoot a bit and then run out of money. Shoot a bit and run out of money. But this is independent film, that's what happens. But it was just great.
Good stuff. I'm glad to hear that. I'm in Toronto. I don't know if you knew that, Loren, but I've lived here my whole life, so it's good that you have kind of things to say about my motherland. So,
well, I have good things to say, and you know what? Working in Lebanon or working wherever with Canadian crew, and you guys being out in the cold at 50 below. I mean, you guys got guts. I mean. Amazing.
We got warm boots. I don't know about guts. It's warm boots and a good warm fur-lined hood.
Got to have the guts to put the boots on to go outside.
Amen.
Below. So anyway,
that's awesome.
Could you talk a bit more about your experience working in the Philippines on a film called?
There?
Yeah,
we're here.
Hello?
Everybody here?
Can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, good.
Okay. Loren, could you talk a bit about your experience working in the Philippines on a film called Fighting Spirit? I know you worked with an actor, Sean Donahue, who I know the gentlemen are a big fan of, having covered a film called Parole Violators. That kind of hit a lot of sweet spots for the audience here. What memories do you have of the film and your co-star, Sean Donahue, and that experience in general?
Well, it was kind of a quick and I don't know, a quick deal that was made. A chap named Jacob Bressler in L.A. Knew the producer in the Philippines, and they needed, somebody to star in this movie, and they'd already started shooting and so on and so forth. So I literally had been dating my future wife, who happened to be Filipina. So I made the deal, arrived and read the script. I hadn't even read the script. Read the script and was like, holy crap. Can we talk about this? Can we make a few changes? So on and so forth. So basically, Sean was terrific. I mean, he's again, a gifted athlete, has some martial arts experience, but mostly the athletic ability.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew it, and I think that was 92-ish, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. God, a long time ago. But, we stayed in touch after Fighting Spirit. He I can't remember he lived somewhere in Cali and was still making independent film and I think doing stunt work and doing other things as well. But Sean was a terrific guy and is a terrific guy. And I think that somehow in the world distribution, they call that movie King of the Kickboxers 2.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They do, yeah.
And there is a, big picture of Sean there, yelling. And yours truly is somewhere on the poster, but the thing is that, Fighting Spirit, again, was an opportunity to go and work. And the producer and the director, who's a Filipino guy, great to work in the Philippines, first of all, compared to Thailand. I mean, love Thailand so much, but everybody speaks English in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And it's, it's a Christian country and whatever. I mean, there's a little bit more understanding of, the American mentality and so on and so forth. But it was fun, to work there, and I got to travel around a bit. I negotiated for my then girlfriend, and they started calling her my wife because, of course, it's a Catholic country. You go over there and you're with the Filipina and you're not married, then So they started calling her my wife. I guess it stuck because I ended up marrying her and having a daughter with her. But
nice.
The thing is Sean was a terrific guy to work with and always willing. And we had one guy from who I do a fight with in Tagaytay, which was Franco, the guy who was in power there. There was some palace or something that they had started building somewhere in Tagaytay, and that's where we do this fight. And it's that Jackie Chan, this one Chinese guy, who basically was the all-around coordinator and whatever on Fighting Spirit. And I remember he would get up at the crack of dawn and he'd just step out on the balcony and go, like wake everybody. And he was so cool. I mean, and it was great working with him. And, he was it was terrific. And Sean was terrific. And we made it work.
Nice.
Greg Douglas, who is sort of the heavy in that, a real-time SWAT guy, real dude, very generous, took care of me, we took care of each other. I mean, he's busting through real bricks. Those aren't like, movie bricks that they put together out of foam, those are, real bricks he's crashing through, real pieces of, so it was really kind of neat, being in PI and working with Sean and with Greg. And, the result is some pretty cool stuff. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen Manhattan Chase. Have you guys heard of that film?
Well,
Godfrey Ho did.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you a little bit further into the thing, but this would be a great opportunity now to ask you. Me and Will, and I'm pretty sure I speak for Karl a little bit too, but we are fans of Godfrey Ho. And I was curious what it was like to work with Godfrey Ho.
Godfrey is a trip. He is there's some stuff on YouTube behind the scenes. You don't really see Godfrey that much, but he's got the hat on, he's got the glasses, he's got the scarf around his neck, he's the director. And, again, very creative. Thank God we had Steve Tartaglia there, who I met in Hong Kong on the docks there. He does that fight with me and Jerry Trimble. He's one of Jerry's thugs. Mm-hmm. So Manhattan Chase and working with Godfrey was awesome. I mean, and because Steve was living in New York, he was living in Hell's Kitchen, he brought out all these great athletic martial artists, and they sold out for us, and Cynthia was terrific about stuff, and, we made it work. But Manhattan Chase was a lot of fun, and there's some good fights in that film as well, especially and I can't remember the character's name, but the guy who was the main bad guy, he was in The Rock with Sean Connery, but he was terrific. And we do a fight in that in his lair, and there's some, and so we had sort of almost a Hong Kong level, but doing it ourselves in Brooklyn, and so it was kind of cool. And working with Godfrey was great. I mean, he would ask questions and he would make things better. He'd tell us what he wanted, and then like for example, when I'm pointing the gun at those guys and I say, I hate you both, now turn around or whatever. He asked me, he said, how do you want to shoot this, Loren? These are great directors. Yuen asked me the romantic scene in No Retreat, No Surrender 2, Loren, how would you shoot this? And I said, well, I do a 50-50 and I do over my shoulder and over her shoulder, and we've got 5 Panavision cameras. Let's use them. Yeah. And so, Godfrey was terrific, and we just made stuff work. And if you look at that YouTube thing, the thing that's interesting about working with the Chinese, bless their hearts, I'm a tall person. They're not. So they set some sort of frame for some action to work, and it works for them. But then I try to do it, and it doesn't work because I need a little more room. Yeah. So, it's just little things like that you'll see in the behind the scenes thing. And, doing stuff in Central Park and, hanging out in New York and making a movie was a lot of fun. And Godfrey was and is pretty, you really got to be on your toes with him. And so, it was a great product that, we ended up with. And it was because of Godfrey and his creativity.
Nice. So. Nice. Yeah, there's not a lot about, Godfrey there is a lot about him online, but not a lot of interviews and whatnot. And I've never seen him before, so I happened to watch those behind-the-scenes things just to kind of get an idea of what the quote-unquote great Godfrey Ho looks like. And, wow, it was pretty cool to see you on there and everything. Like, you guys were having a good time.
We were. Absolutely.
You kind of worked all over the world. What's been your favorite place to film a production?
Oh, jeez. Anywhere they're paying me. No, I'm kidding. You know what? To be honest, I can't. I would say overall, because I spent probably 9 months in Thailand, just simply because of the culture. Yeah. It's just a beautiful place. I mean, you don't want to be there during the rainy season, but it's just absolutely breathtaking, gorgeous. I mean, I live in Hawaii in a jungle here, so I mean, I would live in Thailand in a jungle, but there's things that'll bite you and kill you, and there's, bullets are cheap. I mean, you drive around Bangkok in a tuk-tuk, and the driver hits the brakes, and the first thing you see is the .45 caliber in his, stuck in his belt. And, bullets are cheap. Yeah. So are lives over there. But, the thing is I'd say that's probably my favorite if I had to choose one. because of the culture and the food and the beauty of these places. It's captivating, and their culture is, the Buddhist culture is, it's very spiritual. And, when you greet someone, you put your hands together and you wat. And to me, that's just beautiful. And of course, again, I'm just going to sound like a total chauvinist, but great country for a guy to live in.
Nothing wrong with that.
There you go.
Excellent. One of the things we often talk about, because we tend to focus on a lot of older films, 70s, 80s, 90s, specifically with genre films. I mean, we do a lot of other Criterion and kind of arty stuff, but whenever we look at films under the umbrella of action, we talk about some of the transitions that action films have gone through. And I want to know what your feelings are with the transition that martial arts films have gone through in terms of quality and volume, especially since the golden age in Hong Kong and U.S. in the 80s and 90s, as well as the transition from single disciplines in films, or a lot less disciplines in films, to more of an MMA feel that it's going towards.
Well, it's all sort of audience-driven, I guess, in some sense, or, what the directors or producers think, people want to see. But for me, a lot of MMA stuff, it doesn't translate too well cinematically.
Yeah.
You have to allow for, it's just an example, and I digress here, but like Ip Man, for example, if you watch Donnie Yen.
Oh, yeah.
And he's doing some kicks, and they're doing some stuff that would never be done, a Wing Chun stylist would never do, because you have to make it more cinematic. That's why Bruce would do these bolo, cowboy punches, and Bruce Lee, I'm speaking of, and he would do other things. Now, when Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out, eons ago, and here's this cheerleader doing karate in a movie, I said to myself, wow. Okay, it's on. It's going to be in everything now. They're going to find a way to put a kick in. And that's how I got some early stunt work, is that, again, like Roy Horan calling the karate studio. Well, a lot of these Hollywood stunt guys, they couldn't throw a kick. So they'd call a karate studio. But as far as transitioning in 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, there's some great stuff out there that it has been done, but there's also great stuff that's been ruined by poor choices by the director, unfortunately, if he didn't turn it over to somebody who really knows how to shoot action, or they're covering for the star or the non-martial artist, and the athletic or the karate stuff was secondary. For me, it's all the same, it's all part of it. But a lot of times in later films, you'll see that they're cheating with the camera. That you're not seeing the action. You're seeing bits and pieces or chops, and that they're hiding. I know that they're hiding something, and a lot of people don't. For a lot of others, it's that's it. But again, it just really depends. That's something that I really. It just varies. It depends on who the director is. Like, for example, Dick Donner in Lethal Force, smart enough to turn the entire set and production over to Yuen Kwai and say, that's yours, everything's yours, whatever you need to make Jet Li, do his thing. And so Dick Donner, Hollywood turned it over. So a lot of times, I think Hollywood directors and so on and so forth, they don't understand, and I'm sorry, cinematographers or directors of photography or whatever, they're interested in the story and moving along the story or whatever, but they also don't know necessarily how to shoot the action, or they over choreograph, and or they don't spend the time, whereas the Chinese will. Yeah. So that's the thing, is it's really hard for me to watch sometimes because I sit there and I go, okay, bullshit, wrong, no, that's not the actor, no, that sucked. Or I'm blown away by, somebody really selling out because it's really the team and it's everybody, coming together to make it look good and sound good and feel good and, people be just like, wow, how did they do that? And unfortunately, sometimes the biggest budget movies, you look at some of the stuff and you go, all right, come on. And it's really about taste, I guess. It's really about what the audience wants and, going with the flow of what's cool currently or what, I get it. But as a pro and you as a professional audience, for me, a lot of the stuff doesn't translate, and I'd rather, look, I love seeing Randy Couture, playing, being in an action film with Stallone, or you know what I mean. Right. What was he was in Expendables or right. Expendables? Yep. You know what I mean? I love that. I love seeing The Rock do his thing. These guys have great presence on camera, but, do I want to see Randy hugging somebody up against a cage? No.
It's not cinematic.
No, it's not going to work. That if you felt it, it works, but in any case. So that's just, my humble opinion. I think keeping it simple and making it powerful and explosive sometimes is not the goal, or, just the director or the group doesn't think it's important, or however they've shot it, and now we're moving on. And they get a lot of TV sort of, it's shot too tight and can't really see what's going on, and they're hiding stuff. So if the camera's back or if, the people can really do it, then you get to see more of it. And I enjoy that. But it's really all about, what works for me. Yeah. And a lot of it doesn't. So.
Go ahead, Matt. I'll let you go.
If you had to choose, who was your favorite fight choreographer to work with and why?
Jesus. Oh man. Again, that's a real tough one. It would have to be Tony Leung Shin Hong, who, again, was very generous and, would be standing off camera, about to punch me in the face and saying, Loren, we're friends, right? We're friends. As he's about to have me turn into his fist and punch me in the face. So probably him, but again, it's a team effort. If the stunt guys and everybody else wasn't selling out and wasn't doing their part, it wouldn't work. But as far as being the best choreographer and the best one that I worked with, it's probably Tony. And Tony is the Green Dragon Master in Ip Man.
Ah, yes.
And, seeing him again and working at our age doing that stuff, wow, just awesome. And Samo. And, I mean, just, it gives me just, I become speechless and start babbling like I'm doing right now because it's amazing. These guys are amazing. And they are so generous. They made me look great. Yeah. And I know Black Belt Magazine way back in the day, and somewhere in the archives I have a copy of the issue. Only Bruce Lee came out as better choreographed or better done films than the ones that Yuen Kwai and Lucas Lowe and Tony Leung Shin Hong choreographed and put together. And again, team effort. When we were working on these Hong Kong movies, sometimes Yuen Kwai had to split. He'd be gone for 3 or 4 days, so there'd be a replacement coming in. And so the choreographer or the stunt team, and in Hong Kong it's basically 5 guys, and the coordinator, and sometimes the coordinator jumps in there and does stuff too, of all different shapes and sizes that can basically double anybody and do anything, and are not afraid to basically kill themselves. So, pretty cool. So basically I think it would be Tony, but that's not really fair, because it's really, whoever was in control or got to make the choices, they were, the ones who made it happen. But Tony was terrific to work with, and I did 2 films with him, Blood Brothers and King of the Kickboxers, and so nice. I'd have to say Tony.
Nice.
Fantastic. Loren, do you have a favorite dramatic performance of your own?
Oh God, I don't think so. Anybody. I have trouble watching myself, honestly, and because I always go, oh, jeez, I could have done that better, or maybe if I'd done this or that. So the shoulda, woulda, coulda syndrome. But
sure.
Some of the simplest stuff. There's a couple scenes in King of the Kickboxers you're about to see when I go to the Thai boxing school, and I make fun of the Thai boxers and whoop their ass in the ring, and then the big guy comes and finds me, and he can't really speak English. He's talking like wood, but I love the fact that he, because finally I get served, in the movie, because I'm such a cocky bastard through the whole thing, and he lays me out. And I get to say, he says, wait, where are you going? I'm like, why? You want to show me some more moves? So me being a smart ass, and getting to be myself is some of my favorite moments. Dramatic stuff in these movies. I don't really have a favorite. I have trouble watching myself perform, because
fair enough.
It's just hard. It's hard to look at myself and go, oh gosh, I was so great, wasn't I? I can't.
No, that's fair. Even watching, I guess the only frame of reference I would have certainly is even watching home videos of holidays and stuff. Sometimes I'll see something a little bit where you kind of doing some hamming up for the camera, think, oh man. So I can appreciate on a much smaller scale where you're coming from with that.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Loren, I don't know how much of your time we still have.
You have as much as you need.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Oh. Okay, so let me see what question I want to go with here. Oh, let's go. You were a programmer for a film festival for a time.
I was.
Can you tell us about that a little bit? What kind of films you programmed?
Absolutely. It's called the Method Fest. I don't know if it's still in existence or not, but oddly enough, met a chap who's a filmmaker at the kickboxing gym. I got a few degrees of black belt, but I hated going to the school or schools all the time and having everybody kowtow and have to put on the uniform, do all that stuff. So I would go train at this Muay Thai gym in Hermosa Beach, because you could just walk in. They didn't care who I was, and I didn't care who they were, but there were some great athletes, and they had all the equipment and all the stuff. So I meet this guy. He's a filmmaker, and he is one of the sort of sponsors and programmers of this film festival. And he discovers who I am, because I don't advertise. I don't walk around with a sign over my head going, hey, here I am, right? And, basically at that time, I was doing the single dad thing, and I was stunting and, just trying to make ends meet, honestly. And he's like, Loren, you'd be great working with us on the Method Fest. So I met these guys and did it for a few years. And basically it's just anybody who's produced a short film or a film that had some acting chops, or they thought had some acting chops, they'd submit their film, and a programmer watches. Well, I watched as much as I could, some of these things. I mean, 600-700 submissions, And some of them, I've got to say, gentlemen, you just go, God, I hope nobody spent money on this because, ouch. But so I got involved in that so that I could still be a part of the community and, basically, have a chance to do something and watch what's current. What are people doing? Because now in this day and age, really, you can go buy a camera, get the software, you got a laptop, an external hard drive, and some editing software, and you can make a movie. So, back in the day when I started, you needed all kinds of other stuff. So it was very interesting. So I did that for a couple of years, and it was a lot of fun. It really was, but sometimes a little tedious because it's amazing what people will make and submit to try to get some exposure and be chosen or be a part of a film festival, because that's, for a lot of filmmakers, really the only chance that anybody is going to have to really see their film. A lot of these films will never be seen, ever.
Yeah.
Except perhaps their upload to YouTube.
Right.
So if they happen to be chosen and they happen to, get in the festival, they get some press, and they get to rub elbows and meet other filmmakers and, go to some parties and have some fun. So that was a great experience, and awful lot of free work, but fun to be involved with, and then to sort of round table and discuss and put your notes in, and I did basically the features. I told them that I wasn't really interested in the shorts unless there was something that they were having, they didn't really get, or they were wondering, about, and I might watch to be sort of a deciding vote, or, that kind of thing. But it was just a great chance to see what people were doing creatively with, what they've got. And surprising to get 600 or 700 submissions. And every year it would increase. So that means new stuff every year, So that's a lot of, people trying to live the dream.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That fest is still going on, for what it's worth. I just took a look, so.
Well, right on. Good for them. Excellent. And you'll probably see Kirk Harris. I think Kirk Harris is the chap's name that I met, and he's a self-made, filmmaker, put his own stuff together. And, again, just basically he's a boxer, and, we're working out at the kickboxing gym, and that's how it happened. So.
Nice. A guy, I don't know if this was kind of a shot in the dark for us, Loren, but we figured we'd ask. If you happen to know Harold Diamond, that was his stage name anyway. His real name that he did kickbox under was Harold Roth, but he's a kickboxer from South Florida. He did a fair number of films. I want to know if you ever crossed paths with him.
I talked to him a couple of times, but only really admired his skill. Stallone didn't really let him get off.
Yeah.
But, the thing is Harold is a very talented martial artist. And so, the only tie-in that I really have with him is that scene in King of the Kickboxers where I go and I do my first Thai fight is the same warehouse where Harold and Sly do their stick fight.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Man.
In, what is it, Rambo?
3.
The 3.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And so, that was kind of neat. But other than that, I really haven't had any discourse with Harold, but I do admire his abilities and, and what he brought to the screen, and also, as a kickboxer. He's a pretty talented guy. Yeah. So, and great as Screama, our niece, or, Kali practitioner as well, as a weapon stylist as well. Just an amazing martial artist.
All right. you talked a little bit about stunt work before. Do you try to do as much stunt work as possible in your films for yourself? I mean, it appears you do.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to get in there and, get dirty as much as I possibly can. And the thing is, that's, and doing stunt work behind this, working on television shows and stuff like that, the stunt department, we get to have the most fun, honestly, I think. And, so yeah, I try to as much as possible. I will step back or if the production, and a lot of times production won't let you, because if you get hurt, guess what? Everybody, stops working, producers have lost money, and the film is over. Or the production is shut down for a while. So that's absolutely something that I aspire to. But, there's limitations, and as I think one of your questions eventually was about Clint Eastwood, and, as he says in his movie, his Dirty Harry, man's got to know his limitations. So,
Nice.
It's true. It's true.
But it adds something, seeing your films, seeing, inevitably with more Western films than anything, the camera pulls back and it's a stuntman, but it's pretty great to see some of the wild stuff you've done in your films, improvisational stuff, or at least it feels that way because it feels very organic. Is stuff where you would run up a wall, or you'd use some sort of a stationary object and do a pretty wild kind of stunt. So it adds something as a viewer, I can say, and I speak for Sammy and Matt, is to see your face and the same body moving versus someone's back doing something.
Exactly, and that's I think important. I mean, I love Harrison Ford because he'll get out there and, get that close to, hanging from a leather strap between a tank and a wall and, get close to being crushed so that the audience can see that it's him and his reaction. And I think that's my job. So, I appreciate that, gentlemen. I really do. And like to do as much as possible. Unfortunately, I'm getting a little bit older now, so perhaps, might have to have a few people hit the ground for me instead. But that's just so I can, keep working. But if the younger me, would be ready to hit the deck anytime. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're hired to do that, and this was always something that bothered me, is that, they would classify you and pigeonhole you. Oh, well, this is only what you can do. You can only be like sort of an action fighter guy. And, if you look at Jackie, Bruce, and so many great, action stars, they're good actors. They're good martial artists, because usually you get one of the two gifts,
Yeah.
And so, I'm lucky, and I like to get as dirty as I possibly can, and but do it, if it makes sense or if it's going to work. There's no point in making it happen if it's not. And sometimes, unfortunately, where I was in the world, there is nobody else to double me. So if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So I'm going to pad up and have that guy know where he's driving to emergency, and have all vehicles out of the way, please.
That's cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
So we'll paint a picture for you. If you're remaking an all-Western version of Eastern Condors, who is sort of the Mount Rushmore of Westerners doing martial arts in films that you think could really pull it off? Wow.
I mean, you're talking about kind of like the Dirty Dozen of, the Chinese action film there, right? But, the scenario is very similar. It really would depend on what the writer of this, epic, would want. So my Mount Rushmore, or, my wish list would really depend on who's around, who's available, and who's right for a character. And I would have to write you know what I mean? When I write, I have someone in mind. And that's most writers, most producers, most directors, they have someone in mind for that part. I can't go there really with, okay, for a couple guarantees is there would be stunt guys that I know that can act that I would bring out that nobody knows, you know? I mean, they don't put their face on camera. They put their ass and the elbows in the air. So I'd grab them. I'd grab Scott Adkins.
Nice.
If Michael Jai White wanted to, I'd grab him.
Yeah.
Let me see, who else can I think of today?
Jeff Wincott, maybe?
You know what? If he's still around, I think he is one of the best actors of our genre, Jeff Wincott.
Absolutely.
He's good.
I think above all, he is spot on.
Yeah.
The best actor of our genre. Yes, Jeff. And then, you know, just if Tony Jaa would like to come and play, that would be cool. You know, it really would depend on who was around and who was available. Now, I don't know if you know, but Dolph Lundgren, he is the genuine article. I mean, you know, he's a fourth degree Kyokushinkai black belt, and I watched him and Bill Wallace go round and round in June.
Superfoot.
Superfoot was Superfoot.
Nice.
And, you know, so I'd grab Dolph if he'd come and play too. I'd grab some guys that we haven't seen in a long time, and if Donnie wanted to come and play, if Donnie Yen wanted to come play, cool. You know, and I don't want it to be a bunch of old guys either, you know, so that's why I say Scott, you know, and whomever that I could grab. You know, some of these stunt guys that I know would be phenomenal and would, you know, you wouldn't have to double them. You know, so you really could get that kind of experience that you do with Eastern Condors, with Sammo, with Yun Kuei in there too. Mm-hmm. You know, he's in there in Eastern Condors. So, it really would depend on the writing, but those few that I mentioned, I would love to grab. And then honestly, it's about who's available and who's right for the role. You know, if I were to choose, because what you're asking me is a director's question, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it really would depend upon that.
Very cool. I guess I'm up then. What do we got here? Oh, again, just sort of a question before we throw out, having worked in the circles you've worked in. Did you ever cross paths with, we obviously know you've crossed paths with Cynthia, but you ever cross paths with Michelle Yeoh, Cynthia Khan, or Yukari Yoshima?
Yoshima, I did not. Michelle Yeoh, we partied in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, she was so cool. Incredible. And Michelle, I believe we crossed paths as well, but, you know, it was a blur back then, especially in the Kong.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, Michelle was terrific and so down to earth and a lot of guts. I mean, wow. You know, speaks about Chinese women in general. A lot of guts. So, you know, yeah. So I never worked with them though. Would have been great. But,
you and Michelle would have been a fantastic, like a cop team up film would have been great with you two.
Oh, would have loved that. So just wasn't in the cards.
Nice. Hey, before we get into one of the other questions we have, or type thing we're going to do here toward the end, I just got to ask, because I was looking at your bio. You did some acting training with Billy Drago? Is that true?
Yes, with Silvana Gallardo and Billy Drago. And, you know, his stuff, see, first of all, I was blessed to learn the Stanislavski and the Meisner technique from a very gifted teacher. And that's all about, you know, 99% of acting is just listening. And then, you either personalize and substitute or identify with the character, or you create, whatever you need, your sense memory or this or that or the other thing. But, so I'm lucky that I had that base. But Billy Drago was and Silvana Gallardo, they had this, it was almost culty, their method. Mm-hmm. We would do these exercises and we would get to this place where, you really are dealing, honestly, with some darkness. So I didn't stay with that method, and light, but, you really getting a little bit too heavy into it because I'm not a method actor. Mm-hmm. I'm an actor,
Right, right.
And, it's like Michael Caine saying to Dustin Hoffman, after he's been up for 3 days, in Marathon Man, Dustin, why don't you just act? And you got Laurence Olivier telling you that. So,
yeah.
So the thing is that, yes, I studied with them because, again, always trying to see and push the envelope, find out, if there's something more that I can pull out of myself and, go to these places. And, frankly, there's, again, a man's got to know his limitations. There's just some things that I can't do. Like, for example, Matt Damon is, I guess, in this new film coming out about Liberace, and he's, he's kissing whatever. He's a real actor. He's not gay, but there's some things like as an actor you've got to be ready to do, and I can't, mm-hmm. and I'm not bashful in saying that I can't do it. So that experience was phenomenal because it gave me a window into a method, but it was a little bit too dark and a little bit too creepy, honestly, their way. So I went back to my roots, to the basics, to the Stanislavski and Meisner technique, being truthful in an imaginary circumstance. So and listening, and then the disciplines, and that we don't see a lot of anymore in acting, where I would do sight reading. I would relax my body. I wouldn't scrunch my face up or, my forehead is. If you watch a lot of really great actors, except for De Niro can, scrunch his face up as much as he wants. Seriously,
Yeah.
That's. But there are certain disciplines that, basically, if you're an actor and you're looking at yourself, there are certain things you need to do. And to improve just your overall. And my first coach, he said it best. He said, Loren, just be boring. Don't try so hard, but be in the moment. Be able to transition and listen. If you listen, then you'll be there, and because then you're not acting, you're being it. And that's the key. And I had that base before I got started, so that was huge.
Yeah.
And that was all because I sucked at it. When I went and tried out, I don't know, I was helping to paint my doctor's house to pay my bill, with a bunch of other guys who couldn't pay their bill. And one of the guys was an actor. He's like, Loren, you ought to come to my acting class, man. I think you'd be really good. So I went. There's 12 people and a guy. And he asked me, if I'd like to read a scene. And I'm standing in front of, 11 or 12 other people shaking like a leaf. And I thought to myself, okay, this is not right. I need to dive into this. And if anything, the takeaway is I'll be able to be a better public speaker. I'll learn something about myself. And so I dove into it, and it just so happens that, got a chance to actually use it. So that's that I have Alan Landers to thank for. Actually, his real name was Alan Levine. He was Joe Penny's coach. He was some TV star from way back when. But anyway, terrific base that I had. So just very fortunate to, that serendipitously, I met this guy. And serendipitously, I'm at the karate studio and pick up the phone, It's just, the beginning of the ride. Right? 99% of life is showing up. So,
Yeah. It's true.
That's very cool. I think that we just got the one or the other. Do you guys want to just run this off? We'll take turns again, or what do you want to do here, guys? Yeah?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so this one is just basically one or the other. You don't have to expand unless you feel the need to, Loren. These are kind of more one of those things where we want to hear who you dig in this sort of this one or that one category. As someone who we we look up to as a cinematic hero. So, Samo or Jackie?
Oh, geez, that's terrible.
I know it is.
That's not fair. Okay, first of all, both of them brilliant. Jackie for his incredible comedic ability. Samo for his incredible technique.
Yeah, hard hitting.
For a man his size to be able to move and do what he does with a stool or with a stick or with anything. And then Jackie, the same thing. But Jackie is always trying to, make it humorous and make it more and bigger. And, working with guys that work with him, like Vincent Lin, for example, he and I are still really good friends. And he'd be like, Loren, Jackie would just be like, he'd make you feel stupid, trying to do something, jump from this little tiny rock over to this hole in the wall and, up onto this tree or something. You'd just be like, oh, it's just like this. You just go, ta-ta-ta, and, make you feel stupid because you can't do it. But so that's, I don't know. I would have to say, because of his technique, Samo.
Cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Lau Kar-Leung or Chang Cheh?
Jesus, here we go again. I don't know. I can't say. I really can't say between those two. So can I pass on that one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll say I'm Lau Kar-Leung, and I think Sammy is too. I don't know where you stand on that, Matt. Yeah, we're all Lau Kar-Leung guys here. I think more his the way he was able to shoot a lot of his choreography. I think there was more presentation there. As far as that's my opinion, anyway.
I think I'm going to go with you guys. Mob rule.
Nice.
Golden Harvest or Shaw Brothers?
Golden Harvest.
Nice.
Absolutely. Shaw Brothers, they all traded off. They all used each other's people, and basically it's the triads that, allowed it all to happen. Quick story about See Yuen, seasonal, Ng. He got beat up because he wouldn't let one of the Shaw Brothers or whatever use one of his actors that he had under contract. So, that's just the way it worked over there. But Golden Harvest for sure. Absolutely. That drum sound, dum, dum.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to see some cool shit.
Yeah, it's true.
That's awesome, man. Where are we here?
Yeah, favorite Clint Eastwood film?
Yes, because I know you're a Clint guy, so that's curious.
You know what? Okay, so are we talking as an actor or as a director? Or which era are we talking?
Let's do both. I'd like to hear your favorite acting performance from Clint Eastwood and your favorite directing.
Oh, Jesus. Well, first of all, again, it's really I just love Clint Eastwood. I could watch Clint Eastwood pick his nose. I don't care. The guy just has great presence, but it's got to be Dirty Harry.
Nice.
Cool.
Because he broke the wall with that film. He's so simplistic and, so cool and just, do you feel lucky? Do you punk? Gosh, when I was that age watching Clint, I was just, wow.
Yeah.
And, as a director, I love almost every film that he's done, but of late, the most current, Gran Torino.
Nice.
So simple. But, Clint is allowing himself the freedom to be real. Still be the hero, be the old guy, be who he is at now, now as an actor, as a director, and again, come across and make basically, his co-stars in that kid that plays, I can't remember his name, his character.
Yeah, the boy next door, yeah.
Boy next door. I mean, how do you try to act with Clint Eastwood, and then the kid is, he's perfect for the role because he is, what he is. But Clint, there's just so many, I hate to use this arty-farty word, but so many colors and levels. And there's so many subtle things that he does. Yeah. And he does them almost in every film, he'll use the same stuff or whatever, but he's just so great to watch. I love everything that he does. I really do. And everything back from the spaghetti westerns to, whether it's, him and what is it? I don't know if it's The Longest Day or Kelly's Heroes. Or,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's just so freaking cool.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
So, bless his heart. And I guess he's, almost 80 now or something like that. So, the guy's amazing. So, I guess Dirty Harry and Gran Torino would be standouts. And all of his early, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And, I mean, wow. Just his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant.
Hey, Loren, any love for Thunderbolt and Lightfoot?
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Refresh my memory.
It's a real cool one. It's him and Jeff Bridges. They're going to rob. I think it's a safe, and they put together a team. Young Gary Busey's in it. Jeff Bridges is kind of the young, eager guy, and Clint's a little more grizzled and seasoned. And it's basically a buddy heist movie. There's some comedic touches, just like he did in the 70s. But if you haven't seen it, we reviewed it on the show a few years ago. It's a really fantastic Clint film that kind of falls under the radar sometimes because it's not just sort of a Clint film. It's him and Bridges and Busey, and I think there's a few other good names, and I don't know if it's Frederick Forrest. There's a few other guys in it that are pretty great to watch, some old pros. So if you get a chance to check it out.
Jeffrey Lewis,
that's right.
I remember the title, but it's been many years since I've seen that film. And when you think of Clint, it's, the outlaw Josie Wales. It's, him and the orangutan. I can't remember whatever that was.
Every Which Way But Loose.
Every Which Way But Loose. I mean, you got to love a guy like that.
Oh, yeah.
Not afraid to do something really cool. And it's so simple. When he does things, it's, he doesn't need a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
It's just really, it's great to see that. And to see Gran Torino and how simple it was, and all of his pieces are character driven. And that is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So bless his heart.
Very cool. Maybe we just got one more. And again, this is kind of a left field question, but didn't know when we'd have the chance to ask this again of you. 3, and no shame in this because we all have them, 3 absolute guilty pleasure films that you love, whether they're romantic comedies or musicals. 3 guilty pleasures of yours that you really like watching.
Only 3. Well, probably one of my all-time favorites is The Man Who Would Be King.
Nice. Oh, nice, good one.
With Sean Connery and Michael Caine. I just think that's brilliant. Of course, it's Rudyard Kipling, so great writing. Dr. Zhivago with Omar Sharif. David Lean, incredible.
Oh yeah.
And probably Little Big Man.
Oh, nice.
With Dustin Hoffman.
That's a great one.
Of his portrayal, and they just showed it on Turner Classic Movies, and I missed it. But I just love how he, transitions. And there's just so many other films that I just love great films. And so those are, as you can tell, sort of from a while ago. but those films had an impact on me. And then, musicals, Fiddler on the Roof, things like that.
Nice.
We could go on and on, but those are movies. And then as far as TV, which is, again, off another tangent question. I could watch I could watch MASH on a loop all day, every day, different episodes, that kind of thing. So,
nice.
But, yeah, gentlemen, it's, there's so many great films. It's hard. And if you go way, way back, there's some there's some foreign-based films that I love. There's one Japanese film that I think it's called Tereska Den.
Dream. That's Akira Kurosawa.
Kurosawa's
Great
film.
Yeah, great film.
Great film. There's a lot of other, Seven Samurai.
Nice pull, Loren. Tereska, that's a good film. I caught that again, speaking of Turner Classic, I caught that, I taped it off on my PVR maybe 3-4 months ago. Yeah, cool.
So yeah, gentlemen, more power to you for, keeping the love alive, and the history and the paradigm of filmmaking, in the present for, us old farts.
Well, we want to thank you, Loren, just for being you. Without people like you in our lives growing up as young men, so people like you make us love cinema that much more, and we just want to thank you so much for that.
It's my pleasure, gentlemen.
It's like we said, Loren. Remember, to bring it full circle, we said it's nice to hear when your heroes are great people. It's nice to hear that Loren Avedon's a great person, because we all watched you growing up. We saw The Box, King of the Kickboxers, and all your other films, and to hear and to have you be so giving of your time on a Saturday night for you, for us three here in Canada and America, it's been an absolute pleasure and a joy, and it's really, really been wonderful.
Well, it's been my pleasure, gentlemen. Absolutely, and hopefully there'll be more things that you see of me in the future that you'll be able to go, yeah, I talked to that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Take care, gentlemen, and to your fans and to my fans, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And it's been great. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
There is one thing, if we may, before you go. We have a tradition on the show of closing our show with adios. So if we could ask of you to give us an adios.
Adios, muchacho! Órale, vato!
Nice.
Carnales, que vaya!
Nice. Aaron's going to love that.
Yes, he is.
Awesome.
All right.
Adios.
Thanks.
Adios.
Adios.